I'm good.
Right. 1 second.
Andrew's so much taller than you, and he was blocking you, and so was Jillian.
All right, everybody's ready?
Yeah, he's tall.
Just a bully.
Go for it. My bad. Shut
The mayor has advertised months in advance. You got the peg, then you got another one in January, got another one in April.
What we said from the beginning is this was an exercise of just using up a bunch of people's labor instead of them focusing on the services they're supposed to supply to the city. When we look at the budget, it is clear that we're actually above our revenue projections. We have $8 billion in reserves. They have supplied no evidence for these bills supposedly from the asylum seekers, and right now the state has over $1.5 billion just for New York City for asylum seekers, and the city has not submitted any paperwork for that reimbursement. So to me, this is the mayor and this administration are doing unnecessary cuts which will cause real pain for the communities of New York City.
What of these cuts are going to be recognizable or evident to families who send their children to school? Where are they going to start?
You're going to see after schools right away. This is a major cut in concession, which is what teachers are paid for doing after school, Saturday programs, things of that nature, which we need right now more than ever. So our school system, the teachers, the school staff, for the last 2 years are helping and moving our children in a better direction after COVID, as well as the asylum seekers, and at the same time, for 2 successive years, we've been cut by this mayor. And at the same time, the federal government, the state government has given us more money than ever before, specifically for education. The only governmental agency cutting us is our own, New York City.
Do you blame part of the COVID funding for lack of planning and other migrant crisis?
No, because when I see the actual revenues of the city are quite impressive, there is, and just again, the COVID money is running out. But what that's going to do is into next year's budget. What they're doing right now is just not necessary, and it's wrong. And I'm sorry, I've been involved with budgets in New York City, New York State for quite some time, and when you look at the numbers, you're like, okay, this is fabricated. You have to ask him. I'm not going to speculate. My job is to say, these are the facts. When it's time, when you're doing something that is not necessary and it's hurting our children in New York City, then our union will stand up and fight.
Thank you. What do you make of yesterday, 2 days ago, they were touting high enrollment numbers, which are entirely due to the arrival of migrant students, and that'll help offset some of the cuts to individual schools. A day later, they're talking about the budget and saying the migrant crisis is costing the city all over money. And I mean, it sort of
this
feels like
constant helter-skelter of messaging by this administration is not helpful, and it's really causing damage to our city and our schools.
Sir, one last question.
Okay. As far as we're concerned,
good job, team. Just call it Milgrew, M-U-L-G-R-E-W.
We're going to figure out one.
Oh, I see, okay.
Great benefit to our for people who are working, and as far as we're concerned, there should be no cancellation of this.
What if there are cancellations?
We will fight.
Right now, I will be like situations like you said about what the mayor announced, the 5% what education would be have cut if that happens?
Well, the cuts that we feel are completely unnecessary and not warranted at this point. But what we're going to see right away is cuts to after-school programs, weekend programs, things that we've been using to help the children out of COVID as well as the asylum-seeking children. Those are the things that have been making a difference. And this is 2 successive years of cuts when we've had unprecedented education funding from the state and federal government. And the city's revenues and its reserves are in very, very good shape.
What if some ideas? What is your idea to help any like the body calling for getting this?
Here's the idea: get your budget in order and stop telling people that we're in trouble.
Yeah, I got like a text last night that were like. Alright, good people. No,
Hey, hi, it's round 206 here. I got a feed for you. Good, how are you?
Joanna will start us off.
I assume she is, but I don't know.
Budget cut rally.
No, I'm happy.
All right, I'll call you when I'm done. It's gonna be a while. It's like we waited an hour. So, all right, thanks. Bye.
And everybody else is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, keep getting signs.
Speak louder when you speak.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is good. Everybody okay? Okay. I think we're good.
Chill. 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 Yeah, the size of it. Chill.
Wait, where's my friggin' mic? Oh, there it is.
I have a, but you know, but that's, whatever you're.
Cannot cuts! 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 Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Joanna James Williams. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a managing director at Vocal New York, a statewide grassroots membership organization building power to end AIDS, homelessness, mass incarceration, and the drug war in New York State. And we work to make sure that working class people, that low-income New Yorkers are taken care of. And I'm here to say that yesterday we heard no good news. Together, we are the People's Plan, a progressive alliance of community-based organizations, of progressive political organizations, of progressive leadership in our city council, and we are fed up. We are here to say, with a full voice of clarity and moral consistency, that these across-the-board cuts announced by our mayor, who is mired in legal woes, that this will harm New Yorkers. Mayor Eric Adams is proposing a 5% across-the-board budget cuts, while New Yorkers have been transparently informed about how these cuts are impacting them or not, for that matter. But we must be clear. It does not have to be this way. We're talking about cutting essential life-saving services, the infrastructure of care that New Yorkers across this city and across this state pay for with our tax dollars. Yet this mayor wants to cut across the board. And it can have catastrophic impacts on our people. So we have a dynamic list of speakers here today who can spell that out for us. So I don't want to hold us back from that. So first, I would like to bring up the president of the UFT, Michael Milgrew.
First, let's hear for everybody's here say, we're standing up for the people.
We're standing up for the people.
We're standing up for the community.
We're standing up for the community.
We're standing up for the children of our city.
We're standing up for the children of our city.
We are standing here today in an unprecedented situation. And it is unprecedented because we have never, ever had an administration try to implement cuts when they have massive reserves, when the revenue is above projections, and there is no reason to do this. This has never happened in the history of New York City. There is the financial problem, as far as we know, is completely fabricated. We've been involved with budgets forever. We see what's going on. The mayor said this is because of the asylum seekers. There is no foundation. There is no evidence. Those bills are what they're saying they are. And if there were evidence, if it was really this extreme, right now, at the state of New York, there is a fund with over $1.5 billion for the city of New York for the asylum seekers. And the city has not put in the paperwork to get it back, here. So they would rather cut the communities, cut the services, exacerbate what is going on inside of all of our communities that are struggling right now. This is not the way government is supposed to run. We are not going to allow children to be harmed. We have gone 2 successive years now with cuts to education. Cuts to education. The federal government has sent us more money than ever during those 2 years. The state government has sent us more money than ever during those 2 years. The only governmental agency that has cut us is New York City. And they're cutting us at the very time they have $8 billion in reserve. And they keep making up these numbers. So we need to hold the mayor and the budget director accountable. You will not fabricate this fraud upon this city. We will not stand by and allow people to be harmed. You want to tell agencies, prepare. You want to play political theater, that's fine. But if you're really, now that you've taken the step that is actually going to harm and cause pain for children in our communities, we will stand together and say, we're not putting up with it. We are going to keep questioning you everywhere you go. And that's why we will all stand together, and I thank everyone who is here.
Care not cuts!
Care not cuts! Care not cuts! Care not cuts! Care not cuts! Care not cuts! Care not cuts! Care not cuts! Care not cuts! Care not cuts! Care not cuts!
Thank you so much for the fearless leadership of the UFT on behalf of low-income, working-class people. And I want to really pull out the fact about our children are at risk of disinvestment. Remember, 1 in 10 children in the city of New York go to school from a shelter every year for the last 7 years consecutively. That's 100,000 students going to school from a shelter. That number's only going up. Yet you want to cut our services? We will not be hoodwinked by this mayor. So next, I would like to bring up Lauren Bradley from the Urban Librarians Unite.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Bradley. I'm on the board of directors of Urban Librarians Unite. We have seen over and over again this mayor trying to defund libraries. Across the country right now, libraries are under attack. There are book bans, there are censorship efforts. Workers are getting assaulted and threatened. What is different in New York City? Not much, unfortunately. A 5% cut would mean less story time, less job workforce development. It would mean no more 7-day service at any branch. It would also mean less materials and less for New Yorkers. I have worked, and my fellow librarians have worked, to serve people in all 5 boroughs, in every neighborhood, in every class. I have worked with children after school, living in NYCHA programs. I have worked with businessmen who live on Park Avenue and come in and get a novel on the way to the Hampton Jitney. I have worked with people who are still trying to recover their careers from 2008. I have worked with immigrants who are trying to get study materials for their citizenship tests. We serve everyone, and we cannot stand these continual cuts. We are under attack, just like every other library across the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I next would like to bring up Wayne Ho from the Chinese American Planning Council.
Thank you. I'm Wayne Ho, and I'm the President and CEO of the Chinese American Planning Council, CPC. We're the nation's largest Asian American social services provider. And every year we serve 80,000 New Yorkers of all backgrounds across all 51 council districts. During these tough times, we should not be balancing the budget on the backs of the poorest New Yorkers.
That's right. That's right.
We should not be blaming and scapegoating our newest neighbors for the budget situation.
Yes, talk about it.
We need to work together to advocate not only to the state and federal government for resources, but we need to ask ourselves, where are the city resources going?
Exactly.
We need to look at why are we continually blaming our newest neighbors when the NYPD has uncapped overtime? Are we taking a look at which budget lines are actually effective? Let's all take a look at the mayor's management report.
Come on now.
There are a lot of gaps in there. During these times, it's nonprofit organizations, human services providers on the front line, serving our poorest New Yorkers as well as our newest neighbors. These are the times that we need childcare, not only for the kids, but for working parents. These are the times we need after-school programs, not only for students, but for their parents. These are the times we need to make sure we feed our oldest New Yorkers. These are the times we need to make sure that immigrants learn English and continue to contribute. So we stand together today with nonprofit leaders, arts and cultural institutions, our libraries, our labor leaders, to say that we need a just and fair budget. We need to continue supporting nonprofit organizations, and we need to continue supporting our workers. Just pay for human services workers. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the Chinese American Planning Council. We deeply appreciate you and your leadership. And next I would like to bring up Ethan Milich from the PSC at CUNY.
Hello everyone, I'm Ethan from the CUNY Rising Alliance, and we are here today because of Mayor Adams' devastating budget cuts. Yes, exactly. Mayor Adams calls himself the CUNY mayor, but we know that is not true. What I like to call him is the puny mayor. Yes. He has so little empathy, he has so little integrity, he is puny. But the people of New York, we are huge, we are large, and we are not going to stand for these budget cuts. Another round of cuts would be devastating to CUNY. It means less hiring of faculty and staff, it means more infrastructure crumbling, and HVAC not working, and mold, and ceiling tiles falling off, right? That's the state of CUNY right now. We do not need more cuts. Essential city services and agencies could not take this anymore. His corruption, his austerity, and his ego. We cannot take this anymore. One way or another, this puny mayor must be removed from office. We will be loud, we will continue to organize CUNY stakeholders, and we will fight to reverse these cuts and ensure CUNY gets all the funding it needs and deserves. Thank you, everyone.
Care not cuts! 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 Care not cuts!
We will win!
When New York is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When New York is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When New York is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Thank you so much. As a rank and file PSC CUNY Union member, I thank you for your leadership. And next I want to bring up another phenomenal leader leading us in this state, and that is none other than State Senator Jessica Ramos.
Buenos días, mi gente.
Buenos días.
Lucha, lucha.
You know, mucha lucha. Sí, no, la verdad que sí. You know, I stand here wearing many hats today. I think first and foremost, as state senator, it really infuriates me to see yet another round of budget cuts to our schools when I know
that the legislature and the governor for the past 2 years has sent every single nickel and dime per pupil with foundation aid funding for schools. There is zero reason why there should be $1 cut from our New York City public schools. We did our job in the state Senate. We did our job in Albany. We sent the mayor every dollar. There is no reason why my youngest son should be missing $500,000 a year in his school in Jackson Heights. There is no reason any of our children should be missing teachers, other supports that are needed now more than ever when we are welcoming new migrant children. You know, a lot of people seem to forget that the first round of budget cuts to schools were justified as supposed under-enrollment, right? Knowing full well at the time that migrant children were already starting to arrive. And now we have actually calculated for these new New York City children, and we should be delivering for them. If we put the children of the city of New York first, then everything else can fall into place. We should be focused on housing. We should be focused on expanding behavioral health services at our city hospitals. We should be focused on expanding bus lanes and bike lanes in order to make sure that our city is functioning at such a critical juncture when every single economic indicator shows that actually we're on pace to a recovery. I found it actually very funny. Everybody knows the Partnership for New York City. They sent an email blast this morning with all sorts of economic indicators saying that we're well on our way to recovery. So if we have money in the city of New York, where is it? Hello, where's the money? Where is it? Where's the money that our children need, that our seniors need, that everybody in between needs? It is such a shame to know that not even a meeting with the White House has been rescheduled, knowing full well that the city does largely depend on funding from the state and the federal government. What we need is for our mayor to do some serious strategic advocacy for our city and come back with money from the federal government, come back with more money from the state. That's what we need. We need focused leadership, not any more mismanagement. Nosotros ya llevamos varios años en el gobierno estatal trayendo cada centavo que se le debe a nuestros estudiantes, a nuestros niños. En la primera ronda de recortes que hubo hace 2 años, ¿está listo? Bueno, todo bien. Se me alistan todas las latinas que voy a hablar en español. Bueno, entonces comienzo de nuevo. Como senadora estatal, sé que en los últimos 2 años nosotros hemos podido darle a la ciudad cada centavo que se merecen nuestros estudiantes. Al principio de los recortes dijeron que era porque habían menos estudiantes dentro de nuestro sistema de escuelas públicas y a la vez estábamos ya dándole la bienvenida a nuevos niños inmigrantes. Así que no hay excusa por la cual debemos de ver los recortes y es por eso que creo que si nos enfocamos en los niños, muchas de las otras cosas pueden caer en su lugar. Me parece muy desafortunado que no hemos visto que el alcalde pueda reprogramar su reunión con la Casa Blanca, ya que sabemos que necesitamos el apoyo financiero de los federales y también del Estado, que la ciudad no puede hacer sus propios impuestos. Así que esa abogacía que se espera del alcalde es algo primordial. Y me parece muy desafortunado que seguimos viendo cómo se mal maneja la ciudad. Así que estoy aquí para estar en solidaridad con mis neoyorquinos, porque vemos que sí vamos hacia una recuperación económica y más sin embargo vemos de esta alcaldía recorte tras recorte tras recorte, cuando lo que necesitamos es más servicios, no solamente dentro del ámbito de la educación, sino del ámbito del transporte y en especial la salud, en donde me parece justo que la única respuesta a la pandemia haya sido que tengamos un ala de servicios al cuidado mental en cada hospital de la ciudad. Así que muchísimas gracias y vamos a seguir luchando por los nuestros.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Senator Ramos. And next, I would love to bring up another fierce champion and comrade in the fight to protect our children and their rights. And that's none other than Amshila Jarapal from the Alliance for Quality Education.
Good morning, everyone. So I had not planned to speak, so it's a little off the cuff, forgive me. But the first thing I want to say, the number I want y'all to remember is 9 billion.
9 billion.
That's right. We have $9 billion in reserve. So keep that in your mind every time you hear about 1 in 10 students being homeless, every time you hear about parents not having childcare, every time you hear about a library closing. We have $9 billion in reserves, and not using that money to care for people is a choice. The second thing I want to say is I want to talk about child care for just a minute, because at the Alliance for Quality Education, we care deeply about early childhood education. The first 1,000 days of a child's life are the most important for brain development. Right now, the mayor is proposing to cut pre-K and UPK, and it will affect 10,000 children in this city. 10,000 children. And the second thing I want to say is that if the city is worried about the economy, you need to invest in childcare, because guess what? Childcare workers boost our economy. They get our parents back to work. Right? They get our small business owners who run childcare centers back on their feet and opening their doors. For every dollar that is spent and invested in childcare, you get anywhere from $7 to $12 back. Imagine that. Imagine a stock on Wall Street that gave you that rate of return. You can't, right? So why at this moment of fiscal crisis would we be starving our childcare system, which not only takes care of our babies, but boosts our economy? We need leaders who understand economics, who want to create solutions, who are not okay with just pushing people off the cliff. So I'll end there, but remind y'all again, we have $9 billion in reserves. Billion. And if we want to put our economy back on its feet, if we want to grow our economy, we should be investing in childcare and other critical social services, not starving them. Thank you.
$9 billion in reserve.
Thank you so much, Amshila, and also the fierce leadership of AQE.
Yes.
I see my sister Zakia there. So before I bring up the next speaker, I would be remiss if I did not correct myself. I said in the beginning of this conversation that there was no good news announced yesterday by the mayor. The only iota of good news was that the NYPD is going to have a hiring freeze. I say that the NYPD should have deeper cuts. If you can pay for advanced technologies of surveillance, then we can fund our children to have child care. We can get our children out of shelters and into secure, permanent, and stable housing, including our new migrant children. Remember, we want to be a loving, beloved, welcoming place in the world. That's what makes us who we are. So I say, defund the police and fund our communities. So next I would like to bring up none other than the champion from Freedom Agenda, Darren Mack.
Cannot cuss! Cannot cuss! Cannot cuss! Cannot cuss! Cannot cuss! Cannot cuss!
Thank you so much. My name is Darren Mack with Freedom Agenda, which is a grassroots member-led organization that's dedicated to organizing people and communities directly impacted by incarceration in order to achieve decarceration and system transformation. And a core part of our work is divesting from systems of punishment and redistributing those resources into our communities, into the things that we know and that works to bring about community safety. So DOC, the Department of Corruption, And you heard it right. Not correction. The Department of Correction has the highest DOC budget in the country, $2.7 billion a year. So we spend the most money, but we get the worst results. And I don't have to talk about Rikers Island because you already know the results of Rikers Island. 28 deaths since this mayor been in office, and thousands of people suffering. Half of the population have a mental health diagnosis. Over 3,000 people, and about 90% of those 3,000 has a serious mental health diagnosis. So what the mayor must do is right side DOC and right side their budget, divest from DOC and redistribute those resources into mental health, into supportive housing, into the things that we know that work to bring about and enhance community safety. And what we must do is, if you haven't joined an organization, join an organization fighting for justice. Join an organization that's going to hold this mayor accountable. And organization, you must join the People's Plan to build this coalition up, because we need the people power in order to pressure this mayor. We need the people. We need to build the people power to pressure this mayor. So when I say people, you say power. People. Power. People. Power. When I say people, you say power. People. Power. People. Power. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Darren. And I want to second that. That what you see before you are the organizations that represent working class New Yorkers. We're the organizations that are working every single day to make sure that this city and its democracy works in the interest of working class people. Join these organizations, support these organizations. We are bringing you the voices and the experiences of everyday New Yorkers. And I want to bring up another fierce champion for human rights, for justice, representing an organization that is a comrade organization, a critical institution in the city of New York, and that's Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, JFREJ. So I want to bring up Carolyn Cowen.
Good morning. My name is Carolyn Cowen, and I am a proud board member of Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. We're sitting in a really bleak moment in history right now, everyone. And while on the national level, our tax dollars are being used to fund endless wars and genocides, on the local level, we are also seeing our tax dollars used not to help people, but instead to cut mercilessly from the most critical services at a time we need it more than ever.
That's right.
In Judaism, we talk about the idea of doyakat, or here-ness, the idea that all of our struggles are intertwined, but we must start fighting where we are right now. And while we are in this bleak moment in history, I look around at all of you and I feel a sense of hope, because I know that we will not stop fighting until we have justice here in New York City and justice around the world. We are fighting for childcare for all of our children and our working families, regardless of immigration status. We are fighting so that everyone has a safe and affordable home. We are fighting so that everyone has a good job and can make ends meet. We are fighting so that our young people have the resources that they need to thrive and be happy and safe. We are fighting so that every immigrant here gets to live in dignity, learn our language with support that they need, and live in justice. We are fighting for a New York that takes care of us. Not a New York that polices us, not a New York that prioritizes ego over meeting our needs first. We're prioritizing a New York that takes care of working class New Yorkers and meets all of our needs. And what do we know in this moment as we fight for that vision of a dignified, pluralistic city? We know that the money exists. We have been through this before, where they tell us there is not enough money. There is a bad forecast coming up in out years. There's not enough help from the feds. We have heard this before. And we know that that is simply not true. Our money, our tax dollars are not being used to prioritize us, and we will not stand for it. This is just the beginning of the fight. I am grateful to be in this fight with all of you. Let's make sure our communities are funded first.
Wow. Thank you so much, Carolyn. And also Jews for Economic Justice, Jay Fredge, for being a stellar, powerful organization in this city. And Carolyn reminds me something that Dr. Cornel West often says, is that justice is what love looks like in public. Right. Justice is what love looks like in public. And these unilateral cuts across the board, whenever New Yorkers are vulnerable, is not just. It is anything but. And next, I would like to bring up my state senator, Jabari Brisport.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being out here. I'm New York State Senator Jabari Brisport. I represent a beautiful section of Brooklyn, Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Bed-Stuy, Ocean Hill, Brownsville. And I'm out here in solidarity with you because what this mayor is trying to do is disgusting. Every cut, every one of these cuts, to education, to social services, to the things we need, is a tragedy. But I want to talk about the schools for a second, because I was a public school teacher before I was a state senator, and I will always be fighting for our public schools. This mayor, a few years ago, said he wanted to cut funding because enrollment was down. Now enrollment's up, he also says he wants to cut funding. This mayor said he wanted to cut funding because federal funding was down, but he also wanted to cut funding when state spending was up. It is clear that he just wants to cut funding from schools. He doesn't care about schools. He doesn't care about schools. He doesn't care about schools. And all the finger pointing, oh, it's your fault. Oh, it's the feds. Oh, it's the state. Oh, it's the asylum seekers. It's you. It is you. And I'm going to say one thing, too. I'm going to be real with you, because he came up to Albany a few months ago and we tried to talk with the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Asian caucus about things we would like to work on. And when I asked him about what if we tax the rich to bring better funding for social services, he said he didn't want to do that. Because he's bought and paid for by those billionaire donors who he refuses to tax so that we can fund our public schools. Disgusting. We will always stand opposed to these cuts. We will fight for our public schools, and we will fight for every single student in this city. Thank you so much. Kids under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! When New York is under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! When New York is under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Jabari. And next I would like to bring up New York City Council Member Gutierrez.
How are we feeling, y'all? Yeah, you're feeling good, but y'all should be feeling angry. You should be feeling angry that this mayor once again creates a big hoopla right behind me to share with us that what he is completely in charge of will feel really bad. Yes. Now, as this fearless leader of the greatest city, what kind of hope does that invoke in any New Yorker when you tell me that the decisions that you are completely in control of are going to impact every single person I know in my district, in Bushwick, in Williamsburg, in Ridgewood, in Brooklyn, in Queens, in every single borough? We need to stop looking to him for any type of vision because he doesn't have it. We need to stop looking at him for any type of direction because he doesn't have it. What he has is special interest. What he has is the ability to shortcut and circumvent processes that only apply to every other New Yorker and the working families. Not a wealthy donor, not real estate, not people with special interests. I want to uplift what Senator Brisport said about education. He has been telling us he does not believe in 3K for 2 years. He didn't want to expand it in last year's budget, and he's not going to expand it anymore. I have heard from families that are traversing the subway for 40 minutes to get their kid into a 3K slot in a community that this administration says doesn't need any more 3K seats. He will continue to gaslight us, y'all, if we do not show up, if we do not fight back. Our agencies are suffering. I don't know why these commissioners come to hearings and don't throw him under the bus. Come on now. They're having to let go of people. They are constantly being asked to do more with less. We can't get these inspections done on time. We can't get these food stamps approved for hungry families on time. That is embarrassing.
Yes.
So I want to continue to stand here with so many of y'all, and I know that you are here taking up time, sacrificing work to be here. If you are not at work and you are here today, I say thank you. Thank you so much because we need your help. I want to shout out the People's Plan for constantly holding us to the I'm going to say it briefly in Spanish. Que nosotros tenemos que dejar de darle tantas excusas y oportunidades a ese alcalde para remendar lo que él está totalmente debajo de control. Él va a seguir diciendo que esta crisis que él solamente ha creado es por la culpa de los inmigrantes que recién llegados. Y eso no es la verdad. We cannot let him pit us with migrants, with people that are coming here that are already working, no thanks to him. Tenemos que seguir luchando, tenemos que seguir exigiendo que lo que él está haciendo y proponiendo es injusto. Para él decir que no hay necesidades para más asientos y sillas de 3K es una mentira y que nosotros no debemos ni merecemos de aguantar. Tenemos que seguir peleando y luchando junto con ustedes, podemos hacerlo. Thank you so much. La lucha como siempre.
Mucha lucha.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Keeping with the powerful Brooklyn energy, I would like to bring up next Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso.
It's a tough time we're living in right now. The mayor seems to think that we're in deep debt. What he doesn't know is that we're going to be paying for this for decades. The cuts to education is a debt that we're going to be paying for 10 years. We're going to have to talk about this for 10 years. He's trying to save money now and mortgaging our future. That is what he is doing. Because without an education, we're talking about a lack of opportunity in our city. And when there is no opportunity, people resort to doing anything they can to survive. And we're building a city in which we're asking people to survive and not thrive. We could have a smarter conversation about how we save money. We could talk about it in a deep way. If we're in deficit, we can pay for it. But we don't do that on education. We don't sacrifice education. And that's deeply important for us to know that the next mayor after this is going to have to pay for this. Because we're going to talk about needing services for mental health that we don't have now. We're going to talk about homelessness being expanded because these kids don't have opportunities. We're going to be talking about Rikers and the need for more beds and rooms there because our kids have no opportunities. That's all going to happen because of this cut that is wholly unnecessary. And then the mayor is going to pit the people that have little against the people that have less. That is what he's going to do. He's going to say the migrant crisis is causing this. When we know just recently a report from the comptroller has said that about 70% of these cuts would have had to happen regardless of whether or not the migrants are here. Those are facts that need to be told. This is something that was coming down the pipe that we should have been prepared for long before the migrants got here.
Exactly.
The 70% should have been accounted for. We should only be talking about how to close the gap on the support we've given migrants. And we're not. Most of the money that we're talking about is something we should have prepared for 10 years ago. It is something we already knew about. And what do? Hey, poor people, we're going to pit you against other poor people. We're going to take away your education. We have to do this. But you know who doesn't get held accountable or who is never asked to do more? The rich. The city of New York decides, hey, I'm going to talk about my mother, Maritza Sosa. Your kids are going to have a substandard education. They're going to have substandard roads and transportation, substandard parks. They might be food insecure. They might not have a home to go to that is dignified. You're going to have to make all those sacrifices because we're in debt. But he won't tell Johnny Rich, hey, instead of $1 billion that you made this year, you're going to make $999 million. That we won't do. We won't do that, but we'll tell poor Maritza that she has to make those sacrifices. Shame. That's not the New York that I'm a part of. Shame. In New York, we step up and we do the best we can. But we're not going to allow for the people that have the highest need to make the most sacrifice. We're done with that, and that's what we're telling the mayor.
Yes.
The people that have the most needs shouldn't be making the biggest sacrifice. The people that have little need, that are privileged, that should be stepping up and doing more for this great city. That's what we're asking. In Spanish, very quick. En este momento lo que estamos viendo es que este alcalde está diciendo que la gente con poco tiene que pelear contra la gente que tienen menos. Diciendo que son los pobres que están haciendo este problema, que están creando este problema. Sabemos que la deuda que se debe debajo de los inmigrantes o los migrantes que están llegando, nada más es una tercera de la deuda que tenemos en este momento. Que dice más del 66% de la deuda llega de algo que ya estamos esperando por más de 5 años. Que ya debajo de la administración de Di Blasio se sabía que esta deuda iba a llegar. Y no nos preparamos para eso. Y ahora él está usando la excusa de los migrantes para buscar cómo cubrirse de lo que está haciendo en este momento. Que diciéndole a los pobres que peleen con otros pobres. Pero ahora, esa mujer pobre que no tiene vivienda asequible, que está buscando comida para sus hijos, que le está dando una educación, buscando una educación de valor para su hijo, va a tener que sacrificar por esta deuda. Pero el que no va a sacrificar, el billonario, que no le vamos a pedir que nada más gane este año 999 millones de dólares en vez de $1 billón. Eso no lo vamos a hacer. Pero lo que vamos a hacer al pobre, con los $10 que tiene, denos los 9 que le quedan. Quédense con $1 peso. Eso, así no vamos a vivir en esta ciudad. Eso no lo vamos a aceptar nosotros que estamos aquí. Y Nueva York no debe aceptar eso. Esta es la responsabilidad del alcalde. Y si él no puede resolver, que busquen a otro. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you so much, bro. President Reynoso. And before I bring up our next speaker, I just want to pull out something that I think is very important for us to understand. As New Yorkers, as progressive New Yorkers, as working class New Yorkers, this narrative blaming people who are seeking refuge in our city is a right-wing narrative. There's a right-wing, hyper-conservative, violent framework of understanding people seeking need and care in the city of New York. We must not allow ourselves to be confused. We are calling for a paradigm shift in who controls and runs the city. We want the working class people to be in charge, not billionaires, not special educators. So next I would like to bring up the organizer of this event, and that's Zara Nasir of the People's Plan.
Zara!
Thank you. So we're waiting for a few more electeds to come, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening and what some of the things that the mayor has been saying, and also how those are false. So I'm Zara, I'm from the People's Plan, People's Budget Coalition. All of these organizations and New Yorkers and unions gathered behind us today are part of this alliance, part of this coalition. As you know, Mayor Adams is proposing 5% across the board budget cuts. These were put in the November plan yesterday. And this is the 5th round of cuts. 5th round of cuts that Mayor Adams has made since coming into office. It's a travesty. Our social services, the things that New Yorkers rely on, are not just being cut by the bone, they're being killed out here, right? Like, we don't have more room to give for some of the social services and how little money they're already operating on. So we already know that performance and management reports released in September show the essential services are already downgraded, that fire and emergency response, that SNAP benefits, housing benefits are taking longer and longer for New Yorkers to receive. The new cuts are going to eliminate programming from CUNY, 10,000 early education seats. Libraries will no longer have Sunday service. Immigrant services potentially might be cut by 20%. And so we're really here to say that we don't believe that the city has exhausted all its options and making sure that New Yorkers are not hit by the brunt of these cuts. We are not doing enough. We need to curtail uniformed and police overtime. We need to lift hiring freezes at revenue-generating agencies like the Department of Finance. We have $9 billion in reserves that we need to use to fill in the gaps. And we need to better manage the influx of new arrivals and new New Yorkers more humanely in the city. And these are all options that the mayor has not used up until this point. He's either too unwilling, too distracted, or too incompetent to try. While Eric Adams spends his days attending to a growing list of scandals, of ethics scandals, of FBI scandals, hard-working families across the city are being told that their children and their futures are not worth investing in. This is unacceptable, and it is unnecessary. It is unnecessary. We need a halt to these devastating cuts during this time of mayoral scandal and corruption and, frankly, incompetence. And we need an intervention by the New York City Council to provide leadership and do everything in their power, their charter-appointed power, to reject Mayor Adams' cuts and find better solutions to deal with our fiscal issues. New Yorkers deserve better than the bare minimum. They deserve better than this mayor. And we call for real leadership to prioritize care and services for New Yorkers and not across-the-board cuts. Thank you all.
Thank you, Zara. When New York is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Just making sure. So next I'd like to bring up James Innis from New York Communities for Change.
I'm not going to speak long because everybody's been out here for a long time. First, I'm just going to say my name is James Innis. I'm a public safety campaigner at New York Communities for Change. And I work in public safety. So that's why I'm here to talk. Because this mayor who calls himself the public safety mayor is literally the opposite of the public safety mayor. Everything that he's done in these last 2 years show you he's the opposite of a public safety mayor. Somebody once told me, your words mean nothing and your actions mean everything, right? His actions have shown us he does not care about us. There are people in the city he may care about, but none of them look like us, none of them live where we live, and unfortunately none of them make as much money as we make, or don't make the money that we make. None of them have the pleasure or misfortune of living paycheck to paycheck, right? Having to make a decision. I tell people, I still sometimes have to make a decision every 2 weeks on what I'm gonna pay, right? Because that is the society we live in, that's the city we live in. And we live in this city because of policy decisions by Eric Adams, only Eric Adams. We had Bill de Blasio as a mayor for 8 years. His rent guidelines board raised rent 0 times on affordable housing. Eric Adams' Rent Guidelines Board has raised rent twice in 2 years. Those are choices that man is making to make our lives more difficult. These are choices that this man is making to throw us away. He wants to turn this into a playground for the rich people. And since we do not fit that demographic, he does not care about what happens to us. So I am here to say, you are making us in New York City less safe, Mr. Adams. You, with your decisions, with your cronyism, with your mismanagement, and your scapegoating asylum seekers, are going to make my life and my job harder. Make the jobs and lives of everybody here harder. Why? Because it feeds your ego. Because you want to shake hands with people in the clubs here in New York City. And you don't even go to the real clubs. You go to fake bougie clubs. Like, it's not even like people give you this credit for being a nightlife mayor. You're a fraud on every account. I'm sorry, I don't want to have to say this, but you are, Mr. Mayor, and something needs to change. My name is James Innis, and I thank y'all for being here.
So I'd like to also bring up another powerful voice doing work in the city and state of New York that you must absolutely know. And that's Zakia Ansari from Alliance for Quality Education.
Hey everyone, good morning still. Zakia Ansari, soon to be co-interim executive director of the Alliance for Quality Education. I am a mother of 8, a grandmother of 4, and education is my faith. So as Senator Ramos talked about the hundreds of millions of dollars that we have sent to New York City as it pertains to the campaign for fiscal equity, it took us almost 30 years to get to. We had a moment for 3 years to really transform what was happening in public schools across this city, across this state. We got billions from the federal government. We had hundreds of millions of dollars from the state government. And guess what we spent our time doing as advocates? Fighting the mayor to stop cutting schools. stopping the mayor from stopping cuts to schools. We got almost $6 billion from the federal government. Unbelievable. So we have a mayor who would rather us believe that everything is to blame on asylum seekers and others, not on his incompetence. I challenge that at every step that we come across. We are seeing things that have worked for children be cut by hundreds of millions of dollars or even tens of millions of dollars. My colleague Umshula talked about child care and pre-K being cut. We know it's worked. It's a proven fact that it works. Community schools. Community schools, $10 million we're about to see cut to community schools. Guess what? When the pandemic was happening, community schools were the ones that remained open, that were feeding communities. When the fire in the Bronx happened, the community schools out there were the ones that were making sure that the community was closed and that they had everything they needed. The things that work, this mayor is deciding to cut, and something is wrong with him. It's not the asylum seekers. So as I stand here today with a grandchild who is in middle school right now, and know the possibilities of her programs being cut, I say, Mayor Adams, I don't think Jesus would want you to do this. I definitely know Gandhi wouldn't want you to do this. And since you proclaim to have been spoken to by one and is the other, I challenge you to either read up on some of these other folks, read your scripture a little better, and understand that it's not a scripture that I know of that mentions Jesus in it that would allow you to continue to make sure that people don't have affordable housing, that public schools are not fully funded, that our youngest New Yorkers are not being cared for through pre-K and other ways. We are hip to you, Mayor Adams. Come on, that's right. We want you to know that. We are continuing to fight for this in this moment and in the future. And we are collectively united to say the problem is not the asylum seekers. The problem is your incompetence. And so if that's the case, then maybe this is not the job for you. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. You've had a couple of years to get it right. So as we stand united to say no cuts to anything, that we have $9 billion in the reserves. Everybody's been talking about this. We have the money. What we don't have is the will. Mayor Adams, you're a black man. That does not excuse you. We will challenge you at every turn. Guess what? Because we was here in de Blasio. We were here in Bloomberg. So you make no difference. You chose this position. You wanted it. And so it is our obligation to hold you accountable for harming all New Yorkers. And you are doing exactly that. So Mayor Adams, this is what we ask you to do. We're demanding that you do. Dig into those reserves because our community, our cities, our children, the most vulnerable of New Yorkers need you right now. And instead of putting your leadership off to some other time, I don't know, this is a good time to show your face right now. Right? Because we can no longer sit idly by and allow you to harm any of our children. And a leader does this, and I'll end with this. Leadership looks like this. Hey, New York, we're in a rough time right now. We have some wonderful New Yorkers in our space. They are attending our schools. We need to make sure they're housed just like other homeless people even before our New Yorkers come. And guess what? We are going to fix this thing together. We are going to do anything we need to do. We're going to collectively go to the state. We're going to collectively go to the federal government because that's our city. That's what we do in this city. That's leadership. This mayor has done nothing but fear. Fear creates a moment of not me, but me. And it's time for us to shift and ensure that we are talking about the collective. That's leadership, Mayor Adams. Not fear factor, because it's never done anything but pass bad policies for black, brown, and poor people. And we see it happening here again. So Mayor Adams, dig deep. Go back to your scripture. Come on, scripture. Pray a little bit. I'm sure Jesus will have a different message for you next time around. And let's be clear. Gandhi would not do what you're doing. Come on.
That's the key from the last quality education. And I gotta say that you are reminding me, and I too am a Christian, and I just have to say that Jesus Christ is a brown-skinned Palestinian Jewish rabbi who fights for justice, who will not cut and take from the mouths of children. Point blank, period. So when I say we need care, y'all say not cut. We need care! We need care! We need care! We need care! All right, next I would like to bring up our final speaker, and that's none other than New York City Comptroller Brad Lander.
Good to see you. Ordinarily, I feel like the Gandhi reference is like the mic drop moment. Maybe. I'm New York City Comptroller Brad Lander, and I know you've been out here a while. So I'm not going to go too long. And also, of course, it's the job of the controller to pay attention to budget deficits and look at out-year gaps. And there are real genuine out-year budget gaps that the City of New York has to pay attention to. That is real, and we've offered in our budget reports a lot of thoughtful, more strategic ways the city can be mindful of the long-term budget challenges that it faces. Anyone wants them, I invite you to take a look at our adopted budget report. Be delighted to talk to you about ways we could better control the $1.5 billion in claims we paid out, that we could better attend to Carter cases, ways we could be more strategic in managing our budget. I'm not going to go too long into that here. What I really want to focus today on is this, and it goes to what you were just hearing from Zakia. The thing that most frustrated me yesterday was that we didn't get a budget presentation so much as we got a scapegoating. We put a chart up on Twitter last night that was also in a report we put out about a month ago. The amount that we are spending in unanticipated dollars on shelter and services for asylum seekers is less than a third of the budget gaps that we are experiencing. So don't come telling New Yorkers that the reason that you are implementing harsh cuts across the board is because just as immigrants have been coming to the city for hundreds of years, they continue to be coming here. The process of deciding where we'll spend our resources, investing in the future of our city, is what the budget process is, and you don't do it creatively. You don't close budget gaps. You don't solve problems by pitting some New Yorkers against other New Yorkers. The budget is a process of us coming together to make good decisions about how to invest in our future, not blaming the newest arrivals for budget cuts being implemented, and also being implemented in a broad way and not a strategic and targeted way. Two more points here. First, it is contradictory, I'm even going to call it hypocritical, to simultaneously arbitrarily impose 30 and 60-day limits on shelter for asylum seekers, essentially eviscerating the right to shelter, at the same time that you're putting budget projections forward that project that essentially every asylum seeker is going to stay in shelter forever, and then use the costs in order as the excuse for imposing these significant budget cuts. It's just not both things. Like, either we're going to spend money on shelter and services for asylum seekers, in which case it has to come from somewhere, or you're going to impose these new harsh time limits that eviscerate the right to shelter. But if you're going to do that, at least take the money out of the budget and don't use it as an argument for implementing the cuts we're talking about. And finally, the thing I think we know about from our history as a city is that when folks arrive here, if they can get their applications for asylum or TPS filed, if they can get their work authorization, if they get a little bit of workforce development and job placement help, then they go to work doing the jobs that New Yorkers need, in which case their families thrive. They move out of shelter. Not only do they stop costing shelter money to the city, they begin generating money for the city. Yesterday we had a conference in the Comptroller's office at which I got to interview Ursula Burns. She was the first black woman CEO of a Fortune 100 company in the United States of America. She was the Xerox CEO. And I asked her about her upbringing. She grew up in Baruch houses and public housing just a few blocks from here. And her mother and father, but her mother's who she really speaks beautifully about, was Panamanian immigrants. They come from Panama, where the Darien Gas is. And lo and behold, immigrants from Central America who come here seeking opportunity and fleeing war and poverty. Her mom became a child care worker in a New York City subsidized child care program, and her daughter Ursula became the CEO of Xerox, the first black woman CEO of a Fortune 100 company, and generated an enormous number of jobs and values for the country that we love. Let's take an approach that doesn't demonize people, that doesn't look to put people out of shelters into the streets, that doesn't look to use them as an excuse for making budget cuts. Let's take an approach that sees those folks as the parents of the next Ursula Burns. Let's make sure that we're offering people a pathway to getting their asylum applications filed, to getting TPS, to getting work authorization, to landing those jobs, to moving out of shelter, to becoming our neighbors and our co-workers and our caregivers and our new entrepreneurs, and build the New York City of tomorrow where we got thriving resources and generate more economic value and more tax dollars so we could invest it in the education and the housing and the health care that New Yorkers need. Thank you guys all very much for being out here.
Could the local members just come and stand up with me while I close us out this rally? Come closer to me.
Thank you, local.
So, thank you so much, Comptroller. So I want to make these last few points crystal clear. Again, we are the People's Plan, and while Eric Adams spends his days attending to a growing list of ethics scandals, hardworking families across the city are being told that their children and their futures aren't worth investing in. That is unacceptable.
That ain't right.
We need a halt to these devastating cuts during this time of mayoral scandals and corruption allegations, and intervention by the New York City Council to provide leadership and do everything in their power to reject Mayor Adams' cuts. New Yorkers deserve better than bare minimums, and better than this mayor. We call for real leadership to prioritize care and services for New Yorkers, not across the board budget cuts. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want it?
Now.
We don't get it.
Shut it down.
We
New York is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When New York is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When New York is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When New York is under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
What do we do?